So finally, we're here at Pennyhill Park having this conversation. England's prospects. Chris Foy?
It's set, isn't it? It's all poised after what happened on the tour. That created, I mean, you know, the whole environment, the whole atmosphere around the squad and the management and everything just relaxed a bit, and there was breathing space after that victory. But that only lasts so long, and that's given them some sort of foundation. They needed a starting point, and they've got that. And relatively speaking, it's not bad for injuries. They've had a few, but in terms of the key personnel, there's not many. So there really is no reason now that they cannot kick on from what they did in Sydney at home against these sides. Now, they've got the All Blacks first, which, you know, is straight in at the deep end. But they have to show signs of building on what they had, because it's there for them now. They've got the players there. They've got by hook or by crook that element of youth coming in and sort of giving a bit of life to the more experienced group, so that they've got the blend. And I'm not sure whether, if injuries hadn't intervened here and there, all of those guys would have had the chance. But now they've got the chance, and the likes of Youngs and Laws
Forcing the hand of Johnson to buy a new puppy to go with the old dog.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they've got these puppies and dogs all over the place. So, you know, and you know, it's there for them now. I just think that they've got to seize it, though. They've got to build some momentum, and that's started. But can they progress it?
Alex, do you think there's any over-egging of the confidence in terms of the fact that it was a woeful autumn last year, a reasonable Six Nations? We then went down to Australia and managed to grind out a result, but you know,
grind's the wrong word. You know.
Okay, perhaps, but are we preparing the bunting for a success that we might just see coming over the hill a little too early, maybe?
I think Martin Johns would be the first person to say, based on a 1-point win in Australia, he wouldn't want to read too much into it. But it is a launch pad, obviously. But the new chief executive has come out and said that 2 out of 4 ain't bad. Heading into an autumn with Samoa, which should be 1 win, so then it's 1 out of 3, which I think was a tactic to try and take the heat off a coaching team, which to me strikes a negative chord straight away. I don't really think the chief executive of the new chief executive of the RFU should be, settling for 2 out of 4. He's trying to be realistic. I appreciate that, but less than a year out from the World Cup, England should be aiming for higher than that. I think. Is the confidence too high? I think the players themselves.
That may not be a problem, I guess.
The players themselves will feed off the fact that they have won a game. You know, however they did it, they won a game. But I think that this England coaching team will be the first to say that they don't believe that they've got a finished article.
Chris Hewett, Jono said in the press conference earlier, we'll certainly be a better team for playing the All Blacks. You could read that in quite a negative way, in a sense. What are your thoughts?
I don't think there's any realistic expectation that they will beat the All Blacks in this game. I don't sense that around the squad. A lot of people talk about the fillip they gave themselves by winning in Sydney. Hey, English Test victories in Australia are as rare as hen's teeth, so no one should decry it. But the fact remains that series was hopelessly distorted by the weakness of the Wallabies, who fielded maybe 3/4, more likely 3 first-choice forwards. Their entire front row had gone. It was the worst serious Test Nations front row any of us had seen in decades. In fact, no one. I can't remember a time when any serious Test playing nation was as weak in that department as we saw in those games. So that was hopelessly distorted, and England still managed to fly in the face of all rugby orthodoxy by losing in Perth and very nearly losing in Sydney. I mean, we have to remember that we needed Matt Giteau to miss a kick in front of the sticks for England to win that.
Don't you need those little breaks, though, in Australia when you've only lost twice there, ever, when you've only won 2 tests ever in that country?
Yeah.
Those sort of things are part of the territory, aren't they, with getting a win somehow? That it doesn't come easily, does it?
Of course you do. I'm simply arguing that people should have some sort of realism about it, because if you really base too much on a Test victory in those circumstances, if Australia come over here, as they are well capable of doing, with a full front row, and Giteau and Quade Cooper start running England around and rip up the England midfield, which is perfectly possible for them to do, then the come down is all the harder if you've gone in with unrealistic expectations. I'm not sure that England have got all their ducks in a row at the moment. I still think that midfield is a horrible place.
That's the key area of debate, isn't it? That's the key area that, if you look at the side that played in Sydney, many people will have many different opinions on what should be done in that area, and it's for a long time it's been an issue since the days of when Greenwood was there, when Cat was there. Who's going to be, and often it was an issue of who's going to play next to Johnny and sort of, be the guiding hand or whatever. But certainly 12 and 13 together a lot in recent times. What are they doing? And there's. Do
you ever get a sense where, despite his talent and obvious physical presence, do you ever get a sense when Mike Tyndall's picked, is that, oh God, it's still a case that they haven't managed to find anyone else? Or is Tyndall still that good and still qualifying to wear that shirt?
Well, he got picked for Paris against France last Six Nations, and I remember there was quite a lot of negative sort of reaction to the selection. And then, sure enough, Sod's Law meant that he had a very good game, and actually then the question afterwards, well, why was he taken off so soon? Of course, that produced more than a little chortle from Mr. Johnson, who could see the irony in that. But there have been other people tried there. Matthew Tate has been tried there. Various people who are seen to have more gas and more sort of exuberance in terms of footwork and line breaking potential and whatever have been tried, and for one reason or another, nothing has quite worked. So it's still a work in progress, that whole area, and that is a glaring problem. That
means a lot to the changing room. He is a very, very positive influence. Players respond to him. Brian Ashton, for example, not a coach one would naturally associates with being an enthusiast of Tyndall's sort of up and down style of play, swears by him actually, and really rated him as a positive force in the group, which is absolutely fine. My concern is, and Chris has mentioned the France game last year, I mean, Tyndall was brought into the side because France had Mathieu Bastareaud playing. Ayoola Arinley, in one of the most spectacularly dumb selection decisions in rugby history, was brought into the England side against New Zealand last year because they had Ma Nonu playing. Everything in this area seems to be so reactive. You can't imagine the All Blacks waking up one morning, looking at the England team sheet and thinking, we better pick this really big bloke because they've got this guy playing. They don't think like that.
When you look through
pick their side and they don't worry about it. England are the opposite. They're reactive, and it's not it's not a good sign.
When you're going to look through this last 10 years, I think any of us to remember that Ayoola Arinley was picked in an England shirt will be quite impressive. Is Ollie Barkley still out on the naughty step as far as Jono's concerned? He'd be a shoe-in in 10 or 12. Yeah. From my point of view,
he is on the naughty step. He himself insists that there's nothing outside of his game that there's an issue with, but he's an opinionated, outspoken, honest guy.
God forbid.
And he's confident. His defence is getting better and better. I don't think that confidence is shared by the England coaching staff.
Laughs from Chris Hewett.
Who started with Chantain Harpé in last two in Australia, and going back to what Chris was saying about kind of the Arinley plan, I just expect he'd be a shoe-in to start against the All Blacks because of his physical shape, not necessarily what he can do going forward. And it is a reactive.
Will it be a case of putting large lumps out there to try and force New Zealand through?
Yeah, I would be very surprised if it was not the Hape and Tyndall combination that we saw in Sydney.
Park the bus.
Yep. They'll be thinking of what's going to be running down those channels and thinking, let's try and lock the door. I would like to see Waldock involved. I would also like to see Barkley still involved. Yeah. But, they will always think, what if, and imagine the doomsday scenario, and then try and keep that door locked, and then worry afterwards about how we're going to bust that door open. So that in that area, there is still that sort of innate conservatism, I think.
Anything more to add, Chris?
Just asking an awful lot of Toby Flood. If you're going to play Hape at 12, who doesn't have a kicking game at all, of any description, then that's asking a lot of Flood. Now, people will say, well, Will Greenwood didn't kick the ball either. But there's a significant difference is that Will Greenwood was some bordering on rugby genius, and Chantain Harpé is Chantain Harpé.
Well, we'll leave it there. Alex Lowe, Chris Foy and Chris Hewett, really appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.